All right, clones, welcome back to another Drewski's Cards. We are live with my boy Bobby. We are going to be talking about a number of different things today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the Pokemon market. We're going to talk stock market. We're going to talk how they collide with one another and how they might be a little bit more correlated than you would think. So without further ado, Bobby, thank you for joining me on the pod. It is 8:45 Eastern time. I'm going to say let's try and plan to have us completely wrapped by latest 10:30. Are you good with that?
Yeah. Let's go. Let's push.
Perfect. So let's tell the folks a little bit about you. I see we've got some people hopping in now. Bobby, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been in the hobby? Let's start there.
Yeah. When my original TCG experience was Magic the Gathering when I was in middle school. I'm 42, so anybody that wants to run the numbers on that, you can imagine the era of Magic I was in. But like anecdotally, I remember my local card shop in Memphis, Tennessee. I think a Black Lotus was for like $300 in the case. And I just remember thinking like, that's crazy. No one would ever do that. I mean, it's cool, but $300. That stuck with me because I sold that collection of cards that I accumulated over those 3 years. I sold it going into high school for a couple $1,000s and really thought, man, like I'd never been in charge of this amount of money in my life. I thought I'd won the lottery. It's tough if I ever allow myself to look at those numbers now.
I'm sure.
But I'm a chef by trade, and I've spent most of my adult life only really ever being anywhere for a few years, which makes things like holding on to collectibles super challenging. So I channeled a lot of, I guess, like my inner nerd or my perma child through gaming. Really big into Warcraft for a long time, was super competitive in that world. And then moved back to the United States with my newly growing family from New Zealand in 2019.
Okay.
I'd been cooking out there, and I had a newborn daughter that was born there, and my oldest daughter who was born in Paris a few years before. And in 2019 was just tough. Like we kind of lost our foothold in New Zealand really abruptly, and I got back, and between getting back homeless and jobless with 2 kids and needing to figure out my life, like it took basically a year before like my marriage fell apart, COVID hit. I was a chef, I didn't have work. So I was just spiraling, and got onto TikTok like in 2020 real early and just started like, cool. Like I knew about Pokemon peripherally, but I didn't know about it in like any meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of fell in love with it. And I remember I got a really big, because of the child tax credit during COVID, I got a really huge check, tax return. And I remember going to a box store. It's the one where I met you for the first time. And
Yep.
I was there, in 2021, just shopping, just had a couple $1,000s I think I spent at Meijer that day. I remember looking at all the boxes in my car and being like, what am I doing? But I just really wanted to get into the hobby, and I was like super blissfully ignorant, and really in retrospect took for granted the fact that I was just kind of like pushing away ETBs and trying to see if I could find cards that were on sale. It was just it's tough thinking about everything I saw on the shelves and didn't understand, but just kind of fell in love with the hobby. And then in early 2022, I got sober, and I needed something in my life for my preoccupation part of my brain that was healthy. So I got really into Pokemon Go.
Yep.
It When I was just, between Pokemon Go and awesome therapists and really cool people in the sobriety community, I feel like it was really life saving. And so kind of fell in love with Pokemon and channeled all that sort of addictive energy into Pokemon Go. Went hard. And all of this was happening in tandem to me collecting. So I was like learning tons about the Pokemon universe through the game. And that was making me look back through binders of cards that I'd opened a year before, and being blown away that I was actually sitting on some pretty cool hits, and that I just was like, oh, cool, an evolution.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of this growing thing. And I remember in December walking into a box store, and I was like, oh man, there's a bunch of Surging Sparks ETBs. Cool, I'll grab one. And I grabbed it, and the guy behind me, I just had weird energy. He was just really in my personal space, and he kind of pushed me to the side a little bit and just started like grocery gaming the ETBs and Surging Sparks into a shopping cart. And I was just like, what am I seeing right now? And I remember him checking out. It looked like somebody that was just trying to buy all the ingredients for meth and like making sure nobody was gonna see what he was doing. And yeah, he checked out, and I just walked out with my one ATB, and I was like, what's going on? Leaned into TikTok and some websites and stuff that I used for just the Pokemon community, and some YouTube. Just started digging like what's exactly going on, because I knew that 151 had been cool. You know, it was out,
Yeah.
loved it, was excited about it, but I also was like trying to like get back on my feet and didn't feel like I had a lot of money to throw around at that time. And you know, by a week later, I just had this really strong conviction, like prismatic evolutions is going to change everything. And I'm ready now. I'm informed. I understand. I mean, I think of it now, and I didn't know much, but I felt super informed. I felt like I had a big insight, and I don't know, pattern recognition alarms were going off in my head, and I was like, there's something here. And
Yeah.
I was right. Like, I was ready. I had done my stretching. I'd saved some, gathered up a little liquidity, and I was ready to go. So when the prismatic came out on opening day, I was watching people yelling at each other and just hoping to get my hands on anything. And it was in that fray that I met just some core friends and acquaintances that have grown into like this kind of larger community here in here where we are.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's my origin story from like inception to this could be something a little bit more than like a cool hobby and healing my inner child, which it is to me.
How cool, man. Thank you so much for sharing and being open and vulnerable. I think that was awesome for the people to be able to hear. The crowd's growing. I don't know if you can see it, but we've
No.
got 4 or 5 people popping in and out. So I just want to say, you know, awesome story. And what a better time to jump in full throttle than, you know, getting into that 2019, 2022 timeframe.
Mhm.
And what a few years does to a market and a hobby
Yeah,
is incredible. Um, from 2022 to now, I mean, it's just things exploded.
fundamentally
And
different. Yeah.
fundamentally different. And a lot of the things that you were highlighting during your story is why I wanted to bring you on, because I knew when I met you and I met some of the other folks who we obviously have in our sphere and that we rely on and, you know, obviously take their opinion highly. I could tell that you obviously knew what you were talking about and you were very aware of how the world worked. And I was very impressed. So I don't know if you can see the title of what this live is,
No, I can't.
but it is Conversation with a Pokemon Investor Whiz Kid. So that is what you are going to be titled as for this
Cool.
live. So thank you so much. You know, overall, would you say that you obviously everybody is loving giving titles to people especially in this year. It happened obviously in 2020 during that spike, but now more than ever, it seems like people, especially within the hobby space on YouTube, love to title you something. Are you a collector? Are you an investor? Are you a scalper? A speculator? What are you?
Uh, that's a good question. Um, I struggle with questions like this the same way I struggle with like what's my favorite of anything. Like I really can't break down favorite very well. It creates like an inner dialogue in my head that's almost like creates stasis in me where I'm just arguing about which one suits me most. I would
There's no
say
right
like,
answers.
yeah. I would say like I've got like I don't know, like a therapeutic relationship with Pokemon. But I think that the majority of my energy that goes into Pokemon, let's say like in the last year, has really morphed into a connecting point with my daughters and my wife. And for in humans, like I don't generally, because I've been so transient in my life, it's hard to build like super meaningful relationships because I've had to
Sure.
restart so much. So I think it's just, and my kids finally being in school, I'm like, I gotta have roots, which really changes the game. And for me, I guess in needing to have roots, I think of Pokemon as like as an investor and a community. I
Sure.
collect as sort of a byproduct of both of those things.
Yep.
Um, but the collections that I get most excited about are my wife's and my daughter's because I kind of get a lot vicariously through what they get out of it. So I do collect, but again, as a byproduct, I'm a growing investor that's interested in like a lot of opportunity in the space, and I'm really interested in community, something that I just haven't been able to have in a stable or meaningful way for the majority of my adult life. So community investor.
I love that, man.
That's
No,
the title I'll take.
I think that that probably rings home for a lot of people. Your story is uniquely your own, of course,
Yeah.
and no one other person's story will mirror yours to the T. But I think a lot of what you said in the fact of it's it's a community, and also as a byproduct of loving that and how it connects you with people, you're also collecting and building something which is meaningful financially,
Hmm.
although some people might not like that.
Yeah.
And that's just the bottom line. It could be Pokemon cards, it could be watches, it could be paintings. All different niches have their own financial meaning behind them, obviously,
Yeah.
and their own communities behind them as well. So,
Yeah. I get jazzed on. They're both awesome. So I think it's really fun too talking to you right now because we had originally sort of like you uh, approached me and we'd begun to bat around the idea of talking like coming up on like maybe a month ago when kind of the inception
mhm.
exchange between us happen for this. And what's going to be fun to me about a lot of like just this subject matter, especially on the investment side of things, is that if we had done it that night, what we would have created was we would have been dabbling in prophecy, like
Mhm.
speculation that has turned out to be true. And I
Yep.
think like this, to my mind, the kind of because of that, the anatomy of the conversation has changed. And in a lot of ways, it's super affirming because I think
Yes, it is.
a lot of the theses and the things that we were batting around are like they're ripping right now. They're completely come to fruition. Even some of the momentum that I was pretty confident about is surprising me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that there. And so now I think like kind of the function, one of the coolest functions other than enjoying hanging out with you and talking about something I'm passionate about is almost like we've got this current moment like on a dissecting table and like how exactly are we here and what does this look like in relationship to other things that might have like resembled this in some form or fashion, and what do we think looking at what the guts of this are, like where's it going to go. So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, I'm very like animated. I'm an overshare. It's part of my, I guess, love language. And like my wife and I were driving to the mall yesterday. It's about a 20-25 minute commute depending on traffic. And she's refreshing my phone for Pokemon Center because I need to drive. And I'm just talking the whole way about like about this fair what I appreciate about her is that she actually has the capacity to love I guess niche weird things, and so she humors me. But I just was talking nonstop about where I think this is going and yeah, what I bought on
Beautiful.
eBay.
Now you have someone else to talk to about it live.
Yeah,
And we have an audience of 7 now who want to hear a little bit more about what we have to say. So let's do this. Because this is related directly to Pokemon, what we'll cover first so that we have a greater audience, because people may end up getting bored with us. You never know. We'll start to talk about the hobby in relationship to the stock market before we go into the broader of just purely talking maybe a little bit more about the market. Are you cool with that?
Sounds awesome.
Okay, cool. All right, so this first one's very broad, and it's purely how is the card hobby similar to the stock market and other traditional financial instruments? Now, I'm happy to give my spiel, but the floor is yours if you would like it.
I mean, we can take like a broad view and then whittle down. I mean, stocks are considered to be stores of value, a combination of a stored value and a speculation.
Right.
The thing that I guess a broker would argue with on their behalf would be like it's not betting, because while
Yep.
there is speculation involved, there's also a tangible asset involved, i.e. the stock, i.e. the portion of the company. And this was generally just like an idea that you've looked at the fundamentals, you're pretty confident about the market demand, and you think they bring a good product to market, and so you invest because you're just betting on their success by owning a piece of what they're doing. And to my mind, while there's a lot of little details and financial instruments and things like that, broadly, that's been the promise of the stock market traditionally. And in that sense, Pokemon is an economy. It's diversified economy across different things, different platforms, be it TCG, be it mobile, be it their video game empire, their movies and whatnot. So, but it's an entire corporate entity, and it's got a consumer base, and it has a product, and so when you weigh and measure Pokemon, it has an internal economy that's like a stock market, and then it's part of a the, I guess, commodity subset of collectible items. So it's all overlapped beautifully, that the allegory kind of is self-evident broadly, but the details are where the money is.
Now, of course, there are some stark differences. When you talk about a stock, you can start to look at the company's fundamentals, right? So free cash flow, EBITDA, who's on the board, what did they say at their last earnings call, right? There are a number of different things that the company can put out publicly that will guide your thinking towards what is a correct price per earning share price, so that you can mathematically come up with a formula that makes sense for the stock, right? With Pokemon, you can't do that. So that would be my one stark difference potentially, is Charizard is not going to have any free cash flow, right? Now, it has a market cap, which is similar to a stock, but it's not producing anything, and it doesn't have any earnings before interest, taxes, deductions, so on and so forth. And so there are some things where they are completely different. However, where it is almost exactly the same is the simple rule of the law of supply and demand will always be king. It doesn't matter if we're talking about stocks, Pokemon cards, sports cards. Whatever the market is willing to pay for something is what it's worth, right? At the time. And that's a huge point of it. It's the time that it happens. If I asked you right now, Bobby, hey, I'm interested in that, what's the magic card? The Black Lotus?
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to pay for it today?
I think it's in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay, so it's a 6-figure card now.
Yeah.
But 22 years ago, it was $300.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm sorry, I don't want to bring that back up. But the point
twisting the knife.
I'll pull it out. I'm done. But my point is, Everything is based on timing and the simple law of supply and demand. Whether you're looking at Amazon, Tesla stock, uh, MicroStrategy, it doesn't matter. Or if you're just looking at the SIR Charizard EX from 151, or the Moonbryon from Evolving Skies, or a Pokemon Center ETB of Paldean Fates. If someone wants to pay $500 for a Paldean Fates Pokemon Center ETB, then it's worth $500. And
Yeah.
then if the rest of the market starts to agree with that price, then that's the price.
Yeah.
Okay. And so my whole point here is I think that's where a lot of people on YouTube like Opossum Bud and Kira and that group, they really have contention with this fact is that these things shouldn't be worth that much. They should never be that expensive, right?
Yeah.
Well, if less people wanted it, then it would be cheaper. And that's it. There's more buyers than there are sellers. That is the simple rule.
Yeah. And I would say, like, if you wanted to, well, I'll say broadly first, you have a bar of gold, and that's a really exciting item in a pawn shop, and that's a death sentence in your pocket on the Titanic.
Yes.
Like,
Beautifully said.
Time and circumstance, just they are the determinant of everything. Simply put, like, someone asked for it, like, what you can get is what it is worth to you. And I think,
Yep.
like, when we look at market values, we're always seeing snapshots. One thing, not as a point of contention to your insights, but sort of as just like a conduit for the trajectory, I think, of the situation or the conversation we're having. PE, you mentioned profit to earnings. What does PE stand for? PE ratio?
Price to earnings.
Price to earnings. It's an awesome way traditionally to kind of have a good sense of like where you were. Like if you were on the floor, if you were halfway up, if you were in a growing company versus a matured company, PE ratio told you a lot. But I think like it's a really fun thing to look how little it matters anymore.
Sure.
If you look at the current environment, you've got, I think if Tesla had the same PE ratio of GM, the stock would be like $20.
Yeah.
But Palantir,
Yep.
200 to 1 PE ratio, and like America already sits at like an 18 to 1 PE ratio just because the dollar is like lingua franca.
Sure.
Whereas Japan, I think, is 1 to 1 PE ratio.
With
So
the
like
yen.
if
Yeah.
you go to school and you're learning about the stock market, people would talk to you a lot about like, and it would sound fairly complex when they're talking about these traditional tools for like weighing and measuring the value of a stock. But if modern PE ratio tells us anything, like imagine that like your PE ratio is 18 to 1 in America because dollar's lingua franca. That means like the currency that's at the top of the mountain determines the downstream flow. So like if you look at like the collectible space, like what is the currency that's determining the trajectory of everything right now? And I would say, at least as far as the movers are concerned, it's Pokemon. And I think like in that through that lens, you can understand that inside of Pokemon, PE ratio is it'll be more of a mimic of not so much like a meme stock or a meme coin, but like the thing that I think those expose is that underneath all the fundamentals and a lot of like the math and a lot of the economists sitting around talking and arguing about these things so they can write the latest paper is that like I think you put it well, but it's important to get to the simple point in a roundabout way that it is a supply and demand issue in total, in aggregate.
Sure.
I think like it's oversimplified if you sit there and you never leave, but I think like there was a British writer who said once there's two ways to get home: stay there or go all the way around the world. And I think that like when you're on the opposite side of the world from the simple idea of supply and demand equals the value at any given moment, like, and you're talking yourself in circles, like the content creators you reference, like they're working too hard. They're halfway through a really incredible journey, and if they could just circumnavigate the rest of the way, they'll arrive back at home and realize it wasn't that complicated.
Sure.
Is the gold bar, is it a dead weight in your pocket on the Titanic, or are you in a pawn shop? And right now, the environment is you've got gold in a pawn shop.
Sure. Yeah. No, amazingly well put. I love that. Um, I think that's a fantastic visual for anyone who might have just wanted it simplified to a good analogy. Let's talk about how this year, 2025, and I would say it more than likely started at the very end of 2024. If you want to weigh in on that, if you feel differently, let me know. But how does this bull run differ from what happened in 2020? I have thoughts. I'm curious what yours might be.
I think an easy way to think about 2020, like super obvious. We'll break it down, break that one down first, because it's it's gone into rigor. It's hard. It's measurable. It's not, there's not data still coming in. We can look at it. And I think
Sure.
like, I know from my personal experience, it's anecdotal and anecdotes aren't evidence, but sometimes they can give us a little clarity into a time.
Hmm.
Um, Pokemon found me right when I wanted to find it, right when I had a lot less to do. And incrementally, as I got a lot of income that I wasn't going to work to earn, with the stimulus package and everything like that.
Right.
And having abruptly been out of work, I was able to like just sit there with some stimulus money and a lot of time on my hands, and TikTok was like pretty fun thing to look at. And so I think it just, I feel like kind of like Game of Thrones, where it broke out of just fans of fantasy fiction and it became like a crossover sensation. Pokemon had already was getting into the zeitgeist through things like Pokemon Go. Was it Logan Paul
Yep.
that got real excited about the Charizard and the Illustrator Pikachu? And this
Yep.
content that was at the time was getting created for Instagram was immediately getting pushed onto the new thing, which was like TikTok. Not that it was brand new at that point, but gaining tons of momentum. And Americans,
Yep.
we
Yep.
had to stay at home and stare at our phones, and now we're getting a check we weren't getting before. And like, this is exciting and this is fun and this reminds me of my childhood. And I'm stressed out and I need a dopamine hit and I need a win. And people, I feel like in that environment, were like, I got $100 and I need a W. Like,
Sure.
I think so. We saw an influx of interest, and what we also saw was an influx of interest into an environment that had, for probably 15 years, been printing at about the same rate. They were
Yep.
like, This is our demand. We know what it is. We don't want too much stuff sitting on our website for too long. We got to move this shit." Sorry for that.
No. No. No.
Uh,
Please.
yeah, we got to move this shit. So like, uh, this is how much we print. And
Yeah.
so it came in, and it came in. It felt weird, and things felt a little scarce, and a lot of people were interested. Um, it popped off, but I think like the bottleneck for the economy of Pokemon has always been that it doesn't have the institutionalized infrastructure. So like PSAs pre-existed Pokemon, and PSA was a way to go send your cards off, and you have a little patience, exciting. You can build some value there. And eBay's been around for a while. It's a place to sell things, and
Yep.
people are building apps. I don't know how long TCG Player's been out, but there was a lack of quickly referenceable data for the average collector that was interested in like, how much is this worth. And I
Yep.
think for a lot of people who hadn't collected since they were kids, I know when I collected cards as a little kid, like I'd collect baseball cards in Alabama, and I would be like, it's worth $2. And we had, I can't remember what the book is, but I think about every month they would release this. It was printed on like
Was it a
newspaper.
Topps book?
Yeah, and you checked out like what the value of the cards were. That's
Yep.
how I knew. And
Hmm.
it only got refreshed like every few months or so, and I was just like, I've got a $5 card. So people thought, cool, this is worth this. With that sense of permanence they probably used from childhood collecting,
Sure.
and so they're in this environment, and like, that's fine, that's it. And
Yep.
the new set came out, and I think it just silver borders, biggest chases, like Gardevoir. Okay, fine. The all of a sudden you had to go back to work. COVID ended, and so it had created this like pressure cooker. It had expanded interest. It had capitalized off the growing familiarity across like just the general zeitgeist to like Pokemon's a thing. And a lot of
Yeah.
people dabbled in a lot of hobbies because they had nothing else to do. And when the crisis lifted, it left us with a lot more people in the community that had been there before, but there wasn't fervor. There wasn't anything to fight over exactly. The mentality, even at the height of 2020, is that persistently in a few days, if I go to a few stores, I'll find the thing I'm looking for.
Yes.
That's not true anymore.
No. No. And I mean, for a lot of people, if one thing I like to do on a lot of my favorite content creators' videos on YouTube is just parse through comments. I mean, literally yesterday, there was, I think 600 comments on Danny Phantom. I don't know if you know Danny Phantom. He's on YouTube. He's a man of the people.
It's a fun name.
Yeah, great name. But on his video talking about in the comments how they couldn't hit the Pokemon Center drop. And they'd waited 2 hours in line during the middle of their workday, and they got error 17'd, and they got kicked out of line, and they got back into line, and they got error 17'd again. And it was a total of, 3 hours that they wanted to wait because they have no other way to get any product. They can't leave during the day to go get a big box retail drop. And by the time that they get off work, everything's gone.
Yeah.
So I think that is all of those were salient points. And I don't disagree with any of them. I would say fundamentally from my perspective, how this is different from 2020 is number one, even more of the folks who grew up during the mid to late 90s are now at a point in their life. And I don't want to forget my 80s babies, okay? But Pokemon came out in 1996 in Japan. And when I was 7 or 8, it was exploding. And so the first bull run that I would consider was the early 2000s, okay? And that's when the commercials were going crazy. The TV show was hot, hot, hot. Everybody wanted to play a video, the Game Boy, the video games.
Yeah.
The franchise and the IP was blowing up because kids were figuring out about video games that were in that age bracket, and it was an escape. Pick your own character. You start with this imaginary boy named Ash, and you get to go and talk to a professor, and he lets you decide what journey you want to go on. Do you want fire, water, grass? So it allowed for freedom for people who were young to say, I want to go this direction, and I want to catch this one, and I want to catch that one, and I want to catch that one and that one and that one. And I don't really care for those because those don't really suit my imagination or what I like. And now all of those people who had that experience and that nostalgia factor are 25, 26, 30, 31, 32. They have money. They are in an economy where property is hard to come by. If they want to own a large amount of a blue chip stock, it's going to cost a lot of money, unless they're speculative or a whiz like you and they get in on Palantir early. And so my whole point is there's a lot more money with the general public being injected into the hobby, I will call it the market, than there was in 2020. And there's also financial institutions that have gotten involved. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge, huge factor in my opinion.
Yeah, that's when it gets weird.
you made reference earlier when we were first starting about how a month ago you and I were having a conversation about doing this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think one fucking day later, the Wall Street Journal
Yeah.
came out with an article about how Pokemon is outperforming the S&P by like fivefold, like 3,300% compared to 500%
Yeah.
since 2004.
Yeah.
And when you have people like, not that I'm a huge fan, but I'm aware of people like Kevin O'Leary who go on CNBC where the boomers are watching. And he says, I'm adding this $13.5 million Michael Jordan Kobe logo man to my portfolio. And it's going to be weighted the same as my other traditional assets. Now a lot of other people want to get their toes in.
Oh, it's so funny. Like my daughter's and let me just say, new father, congratulations. Here's a
Thank
little
you.
here's a warning. The hardest part about being a parent for me, other than existential concern for the well-being of my daughters,
Sure.
the hardest part is the obligation to meet, interact with, and develop relationships with other kids' parents at school. It
Okay.
is just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I think organically, it's not like 64, maybe it's 80, 20, 70, 30 introvert to extrovert. So it takes a lot of energy out of me. And I don't know. My daughters go to a school that's a little like crunchy. And so I never know if
Okay.
I'm talking, what kind of personality I'm talking to. It's a huge burden. And, inevitably it'll come up where they want to know what I do for work. Traditionally, I'm a chef. I try to leave it at that. They usually spawns other conversations about their favorite episode of Chopped. And then, you know, or, they might ask me something that like, what do I like to do?
Yeah.
And it's been a nice, like, sort of deterrent to tell people that I like to play Pokemon Go and collect Pokemon cards because no one asked me to be in their fantasy league after that
Yeah.
one. And
Sure.
they don't really they kind of look at me like my kid would think that's cool. This has been going on for years, and it's been really weird in the past few months, especially coming back to school here for the past few weeks, having these parents that knew that about me and probably laughed about it when I wasn't around, being like, "Hey, you collect Pokemon, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I take it very seriously." And they're like intrigued and they're interested and they heard about it or they read about it. So it's kind of like it's a blessing and a curse. It feels legitimate because I know that people are looking at me like, "What's wrong with this grown man?" Uh, which was actually like a nice. I enjoyed that sort of paramour version
Yeah.
of myself. Now people want to talk to me more than they used to.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, I like talking to you and the void of the internet, but interpersonally, with just somebody that has a kid that's my age, it can be a tough sell. But now people talk about it and think about it like it's legitimate. You said something earlier I thought was really insightful, and I think I felt like I wanted to weigh in on it, was just the idea of people in their mid 20s and 30s kind of being at this place where they can draw from that nostalgia, but they're doing it in an economy and an environment where, I've been thinking a lot about like what would like next 2 years of a successful Pokemon investment look like? What would this look like 5 years out? And how much do
Sure.
I think that this can grow? Like, what's kind of the cap naturally before it became such a big deal that it took up so much of my time that I failed at my primary missions of like husband and father.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I've been kind of just feeling like there's this kind of the limiting factor for this, like, to the moon, 200 million dollar plus hedge funds coming into the space, is it
Right.
still lacks the financial infrastructure to move big things quickly without cannibalizing the market you're trying to capitalize on.
Sure. Yep.
And so there's kind of like a transaction, like, like lights the speed limit of the universe. I don't know exactly what the speed limit of the Pokemon universe is, but there seems to my mind there'd be like a transaction cap. And so the kind of wealth that I think that the single, like solitary private individual investor is able to generate, to my mind, it fits into a place that's like it's a bridge from entry level work, the beginning of a career, a bridge to getting into an income bracket where a house isn't just something you could afford, but something you can readily afford. You can afford a
Sure.
house without being house poor. And I feel like the transactions, especially like if we talk about midterm transactions, like 2 to 5 year investment strategies on things that you're buying inside the hobby. Like this is the kind of wealth you can build up to get to that bracket where you could think about buying a home without it being a problem. When we're talking about an individual investor becoming a millionaire, what you would need to do logistically, like the amount of storage space and the amount of like auxiliary employees and organization and tax status and securing distribution.
Yep.
Then you've just entered into basically being a local card shop, except you just do it out of a warehouse and online, which is totally cool. Not bashing it.
Sure.
That's not my personal goal. My goal is um, to make my money work in an environment where I feel like I'm really limited in what I can do on the stock market as just a like a retail investor, and not letting interests cannibalize my money in its money market account.
Yeah.
So how do I grow my money with the amount of time that I'm willing to spend is not my primary job, and like how do I enjoy it, like what's fun. So like the physical hunt is still something I'm really into because it's so rewarding to catch a
Yeah.
restock or just yuck it up in line for 2 hours while like employees look at you like you're a psychopath, and people can have debates about their favorite Pokemon. That I just
Sure.
love that so much that it's super cool that it's like a really viable investment.
Yeah. I think it really, the money part of the hobby is, some people get really caught up into it, and there's nothing wrong with it. I don't put any type of different views on someone who only is thinking about the dollar signs, but I also do think that, at the crux of it is, like you said, the community, and the community aspect of it. And I think, people waiting in line at GameStop on release night, or even on a Friday or Saturday where a new product that everybody wants comes out. Ultimately, if you walk up to a line like that, or even just a big box retail restock during the middle of the week, there are people who, for any reason, whether they're bored or they're really just interested, they want to learn about why you're there, and they want to talk about who do you PC, who's in your personal collection,
Yeah.
how long have you been doing this, and so I had on Jackson, whose moniker is Quietly, on my last live, and he's the admin and owner
Sleeves.
of the Discord,
Yeah,
that I'm in, and
he was
uh,
awesome.
he was fantastic. But just we live in a disconnected world, and this allows for people to connect not only on the cards, but just about life and things
Yeah,
like that. So it feels different. It definitely feels different, and we don't have to wear masks when
we
we
don't
go
have
to
to wear
the
masks.
to the
It's
restocks, which is cool.
It's yeah, we don't have to wear masks. Fortunately, I don't know what it is. I think maybe hopefully it's public shaming, but I feel like instances of like ultra violence or just really shady behavior have calmed a little bit. I feel
Yeah,
like I feel like at first everyone like everything was such a frenzy that it people kind of became convinced it was a zero sum game. That if
yeah,
somebody walked out of a store with an ETB that they hadn't bought, then like they lost. And I think the dust has settled a little bit on that. There's been a little like positive, like this isn't a good way to be a human being, pushback that's created better behavior. It's still wild out there.
It is.
But like it's wild, like almost like maybe the initial frenzy, and now like the people that are left, they got that initial bite and now they're biding their time. It's more strategic, it's more surgical. People know when things are happening, they know where to be. They've seen the same handful of people, even if they're not friends, so many times that the only thing weird anymore is when like somebody that no one recognizes is there. Almost
Yeah.
like
Who
um,
is this? Who is this
yeah,
guy? Who's
yeah.
this
Do we know
girl?
who? Who's that? What group do they? It's
Right.
actually really funny. But I think like I don't. My wife posed a question to me about like, well, if things are at an all-time high, why aren't we selling right now? I've got a pretty significant, I'm
Valid
fairly
question.
valid question, and I've got a fairly significant sealed collection, and I could liquidate some and try to pick up a better position somewhere else. But I was just like, think about what 2026 is not only are we going like out of the Scarlet Violet era, instead of like when we transitioned out of Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet base set was kind of just such a meh moment in the community. And
Mm-hmm.
as Scarlet Violet is ending, they're dropping mega evolutions and phantasmal flames on us to end the year out, like at peak spending season for everybody. I mean, it's just going to
Mm-hmm.
be nuts. And thinking about that trajectory carrying us into 2025, you know, we're going to be stepping into the 30th year anniversary. We're going to be stepping into Generation 10 Pokemon. Like,
Yeah.
uh, just I would imagine that way, since Pokemon Go got its special set, that with the popularity of the mobile game, and the special popularity of the art that's in the mobile game that's exclusive to it, why would they not make like a Pokemon mobile game set? Was it Pokemon Pocket?
Pokemon Pocket.
Yeah, like they're gonna make that set. They did it with Pokemon Go. It's
Yeah.
printing money
Yeah.
at this point. And I think like, there's all the naysayers that print it into the ground. They have been printing it, but you cannot print something into the ground that can't meet its demand. The demand is bigger than the print runs. And you can't, and everybody knows at this point that like they're lying if they're saying they're simultaneously actively printing 10 sets. Like they literally don't have the
They can't.
infrastructure. They can't. And they
They
also
can't.
understand that like to a certain extent they get it. Like they're at like I think it's a 3 or 4x print run to where they were in 2020.
Yep.
And they know that this is kind of a sweet spot. They've figured out that like their profit margins are huge on a bunch of little like weird boxes and collector's items. So it's making booster boxes super scarce, but booster boxes are like the gold standard of Pokemon. So like it's just shit, and like
Keep going.
all the power structures are creating the infrastructure that this economy lacked. Like PSA, you're going to go to your GameStop, submit to your PSA. PSA is going to let you know how your submissions went, ask you if you want to directly sell through them into eBay. It's a complete
Anyway.
funnel. You just send it into
That's
you just send
fucking
it in the
crazy,
universe, and you ask
dude.
yourself, yeah, why are they doing it? They're doing it because the economy has grown to a point that it demands reimagining of its infrastructure.
Yeah.
PSA is tapped out. Like they understand why a lot of cards are coming to be graded. They're being sent to grade because right now the market's begging for tens. And
Yeah.
so, and it's in this environment that like we kind of like get into that like, the big distinguishing when people talk about like, oh, this is getting pumped and this is getting pumped. People are over amplifying the value of certain cards in the market, which was super commonplace, especially like through 2025. I mean, I think this is where we get back to the mind of an investor. Like, what are the fundamentals in this hobby? It's that trifecta of like its age. Like, has the
Yeah.
product aged? Is it out of print? Is there a perceived or real exclusivity to the item? The literal popularity of the Pokemon itself.
Yes.
And then like that demand just has its own sort of ebb and flow. But it's kind of like when we were seeing Drowsy and Frigibacks get pumped, anybody knew. I mean, they're cool. To this day, I think they're super cards. I think recently I picked up a Japanese Drowsy because I hadn't bought the
It's such a
original
cool
Scout.
card, dude.
Yeah, lovely. And I love the Frigirbacks through the Baxcalibur line. Super awesome art. But when I was thinking about that, and it just like all of a sudden the dust started rustling about a couple months ago, and all of a sudden the cards that were going up were getting called pump and dumps. But I'm like, these are Mews, these are Charizards, these are Gengars. Like this, to my mind, doesn't look like a bunch of people trying to manipulate the market, where they go for something that you could just pick up for pennies and turn it into like a like a meme coin. They were
Yeah.
going for what I see as more like to the fundamentals of what makes this stock valuable. Like what has been going up, and it's just throughout the board, like Evolutions, Pikachus, Charizards, uh,
Gengar,
Lugia, Gengar. These are like the
Lugia.
cornerstone. And so all that's where all the money, those are getting snatched up. And we felt like the market was oversaturated. I mean, I even probably had that thought like an Obsidian Flames. I'm like three Charizards, like, okay, Charizard. And I mean, that's how everyone felt about Obsidian. And it just kind of got looked over. And a lot of people like really hated on the set. And I just recently bought at market a booster box of Obsidian Flames because I'm just looking at the market, and
And you're
when
probably already up.
I am already up. Yeah,
Exactly.
I bought Paldea, and Paldea evolved at market 2 weeks ago, and I'm up 15%. And it's, I mean, that's Conda art in that box potentially. So I
Yeah.
know that these things are going to go up. So like what we're seeing is like this isn't news to people that are really paying a lot of attention to this stuff occurs to me not in a vacuum, because my wife listens to me and lets me bounce ideas off her, and I've got TikTok, and I listen to YouTube while I cook food for my family. So I think a lot about these things, but the real investor like communities have known this for a minute. You're in Discord, these guys talk and they learn, and their ambition raises the entire like environment. And so
Yeah.
when I just kind of noticed this through like the corner of my eye, and I'm like, this is not pump and dump, this is something else. And what it says to me is that we have an influx of capital into this new capital into the environment. And that new capital is not trying to turn and burn the market. I think it's happy to be in a deeply unregulated market. And I'm not saying
Yes.
shenanigans aren't going on, but when I
Sure.
see the runs right now, the runs are most of the runs. If it was on a pie chart, I'd say 80% of the runs right now are on just like tried and true, what any outsider that doesn't know a ton about it but has read a few things would say that's a guaranteed outcome, and they would
Yeah.
not be wrong.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
I
just,
mean,
that's to me very different.
I agree. I I think that um, as we see what keeps coming out, I mean, you said the thing about Pokemon Pocket. Oh my God, if they make a set of that, shit's gonna go insane. But like
I believe
the I could get behind it, but where I was going is the people who work at the Pokemon company. I feel like they're just sitting there in a boardroom, like, let's just give the people what the fuck they want. They
it.
came out with a Charizard set,
Yeah.
151, all the originals,
Hmm.
prismatic evolutions with every single evolution, and some other pretty badass art.
It's an
Uh,
excellent set for what it has in it. It's a pain in the ass, but it is an excellent set.
a Team Rocket set.
Yeah.
Okay. A set from Black and White that
Mhm.
allows people to choose which one they really wanted to open, Black
Yeah.
Bolt or White Flare, go after Reshiram or Zekrom. And now we have Mega Evolutions with some unique artwork. And I think they were just like, fuck it. Let's give them a Charizard and Gengar set too. Like
100%.
they know exactly what they're doing, and I just I'm excited to see what else comes out moving into 2026, and more and more. One thing that you talked about was people coming into the market who, even if they didn't know anything about what had been going on these past 10 months, we'll call it 10 months,
Yeah.
They could look at a card and be like, oh, I bet that one's going to go up because look at the artwork and look at the character. Everybody
Yeah,
likes that one, right? And they have no price memory.
not at
Okay.
all.
If they weren't in the market in 2020, then they have no clue. If they weren't in the market in 2023, they have no clue. So, right, they could have been walking around a store and they saw a elite trainer box of 151 sitting there, and they thought, oh, that's pretty cool looking. It's $55 right now. If I want to get it on eBay, it's $50 or $45, depending on the seller. Um, but they wouldn't have known that.
100%.
And if they went now and looked at it and they go, oh, an elite trainer box of 151, what is it now? 350
Yeah.
for the
Oh,
regular version? For the
yeah.
regular version.
I didn't look. Yeah, it's painful to think about.
The Pokemon Center version is 950.
I know.
But either way, my point is they may go onto eBay and go, oh, that's probably what it cost in 2023. Maybe it was $250. They wouldn't have known that it was literally under MSRP at the open market. And so because of that, they don't care. They don't care. If they have the money, they'll pay it.
I mean, I think anytime new money comes into investment, they've come there ready to spend. It's not really
Yes.
exploratory per se. They're just like, how do I get in? Like, I
Yeah.
need in.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this. I don't want this to happen without me on it. It's like, not to be super dark, but like,
Julian said
when we're
400.
evacuating Afghanistan and people are riding on the wheels of planes, they're just
Yeah.
like, get me at, I want to be on this ride. I will ride this no matter how, any way I can. People, they're jumping in, they're grabbing a foothold, they could care less. Like, I remember picking up, I could never open a 151 UPC. So I didn't have the promos. And I remember when I first saw somebody selling the Mew promo at a card show for like $5, I was like, that's such cool art. How's this card not worth
Love
more?
that card.
Great, I'll pick it up because I love it. It's super
Mm-hmm.
cool. And I'm just like, when I saw that thing hit 40, I was like, I kind of want another one. And
Yeah.
40 feels reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a drowsy moment at all. Like, we're in a very new headspace. A lot of people want to be active with their money and investing. And like, as somebody that invests in the stock market, like, there are big holes, and it is not exciting. When I think the excitement has shifted to like the crypto space, but I think people are getting a little gassed. Kind of like, I think jokingly, I made the point that like one of the biggest meme coins to pop off this year was the president's meme coin, and I'm just like, if an octogenarian is cashing in on this, like, the ship has sailed. By the time 80-year-olds are like, this is the right move for me, I embrace this technology and I would like to make money in the meme coin environment, then like, and I just think like so many retail investors which want to be part of something big. They miss their like GameStop moment. They want to be part of something, but they also want to make money. And
Yeah.
they just get left holding the bag so many times in the crypto space. They're burned. They look at
Yeah.
an investment like Pokemon, and at the end of the day, you're holding that card in your hand. You're in a market that has corrected before. It's been bull and bearish, but it's up and to the right is parabolic right now. And the
Yeah.
thing you have to ask yourself, it would require such an enormous exodus from the hobby, generally speaking. But the problem is that for people that get a huge position in Pokemon, it's not easy to liquidate a huge position for them.
Correct.
By the
Correct.
time they are like, I'm gonna cut losses, like, it's not gonna drop below MSRP. But even,
Nope.
by the time they try to cut losses, they can't liquidate fast. It's kind of like one of the nice things about it is that you can't dump it super quickly. If you don't fall for too much hype, you're not going to get like suckered into too much. You hold, you're going to go up into the right. And it's the market itself does not have the infrastructure to quickly be vacated.
Yeah.
Um, and so that gives it a buffer. Maybe there's a set or two that create 3 slow months of interest. Usually that
Sure.
just piques interest in things that people forgot to pay attention to. newer people start learning about vintage aspects of the hobby or like mid-era aspects of the hobby. You know, when we saw a lull in the Scarlet Violet era, we saw a huge rise in interest in Sun and Moon. And that's
Mhm.
when we saw Lazio's The Lovebirds take off. It was like,
Yep.
I want to be excited about this. I'm here for it. I loved getting into this after Prismatic came out, but like, I don't care that much about Stellar Crown. Wait a minute, there's a lot of cool stuff. So usually the
Holy shit,
interest,
there's gold stars.
yeah, Gold Star hype. You know,
A
that was like
poncho. A Pikachu
ponchos are
wearing a
sick.
poncho. Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't know they made that. That's a real card. I want 10 of them.
Dude, those were $50 2 years ago. They're $3,000, dude.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. Remember how much of like in cooking we call it trash fish. Cod used to be something they would like throw
Yeah.
away or try to feed to like livestock. And I feel like the trash fish of the Sun and Moon era was lovebirds. People hated that thing. They're like,
Yes,
this is
dude, people
cheesy as
hated
hell.
it.
I constantly hear people talking about it that have been in the hobby and really invested for much longer than me that are like, you have no idea how much this card was hated on.
Bro.
And or just like even gimmick cards. Like I just got really fortunate with a friend of my wife's who found some cards. I can't remember if they came from her brother or like an ex or something and brought them to our house. And they were like, I think two opened Ancient Muse and three sealed Ancient Muse. And I was
Ancient
just like,
Muse.
no, when this came out, you know, I can understand why it wasn't super exciting because it's not really playable. One thing we have to recognize is that the player part of this hobby is not that it's necessarily dwindling. It's just as the new money coming in is not coming in to play the tabletop game. They're not here to play
Yeah,
cards.
but I don't want to. I think we should be clear that the player base is still very strong. There are a lot of people going to pre-release events and getting excited. I mean, Worlds. I think Worlds just happened in
Yeah.
Hawaii, and huge crowds. Like
Yeah.
it's. I,
Well, I
I
think
don't think we need to downplay that part of the hobby because during the bearish times, those people really keep it like they keep it pushing, if you know what I
they're
mean.
if this was Minecraft, they're the bedrock.
For sure.
I mean,
Easily.
they're the
Easily.
thing that cannot be eroded away. I mean, I think
Yeah.
especially at this point, like the fandom and the fan base, because I've you know my other interests inside the world of Pokemon is Pokemon Go, and like those communities are super tight knit. I think
Hmm. Hmm.
when I talk about it in the space of investment, like I would just say that like these, well, just from like a trading standpoint, I love meeting somebody that's really avid about the game because what matters to them and what matters to me are often not the same thing, and we really can help each other out.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. So I'm into it, and as a former Magic player, like I love it. And
Yeah.
just by being surrounded by it all the time, I've taught myself the game just to have
Yep.
insight into like, what are these things? Like, I didn't know what a spec was.
Dude, I
It was
literally
pink
play
and shiny.
I play Pocket like too much.
Yeah.
It's a
You allude
bad.
to it all the time. I mean, I'd be right there with you, but Pokemon Go is like, if life is a narrative, Pokemon Go is the punctuation mark. It's the thing in between all the other things throughout every day for
Yeah.
every day since I started.
Yeah.
So I understand when I think about somebody that plays the card game, I'm just like, if it's anything like the way I play Pokemon Go, like I feel you,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah. I think that's the most beautiful thing about the IP is like everybody has their own thing they can get behind.
Yes.
Let's look at some of these comments really quick. Julian says, there's a lot of sexy in one live, and I tend to agree with him about that. Um,
Good to
he
hear.
he let us know $400 on a regular 151 ETB, and made the comment that yes, all of the local game stores are full. They got peeps that are waiting to get in to play the game. So awesome, awesome, awesome. I think that really summarizes what we wanted to talk about with how things are completely different. And if you needed any more evidence, I don't even know what to tell you to go look for, because I think Bobby did an amazing job highlighting his point of view, and I tried to chime in where I thought I could add some value. But one of the topics I wanted to talk about, we did kind of cover during the synopsis of that, which was just the influence of buyout groups and pump and dumps. So I feel pretty comfortable moving along from that. You made reference, and I think we should talk about this briefly, um, with the importance of data having a price available and how that gives people confidence in what they're buying. And I think right now, more than any time ever, there are so many easy to use. I think that is also key. Easy to use tools to come up with a value for what you're about to buy. So, regardless of how expensive something is, when you walk up to a dealer table at a local card show, or even a massive card show like a Collecticon that might happen regionally or nationally, you don't have to walk up and say, "Oh my God, this guy's trying to charge me $600 for this little bubble Mew. Like, this guy's trying to fucking rip me off." No, you just pull out your phone that you're on all the time. You can get on TCG Player. You can get on eBay and look at last solds. You can get on 130 Point. You can get on Card Ladder. You can get on Alt. There are so
Cookie
many
price chart.
literally there's so many that you can get on. You can reference a sale from the same day online where you don't have to worry about, gosh, am I paying $100 more for what this thing is actually worth? You can see in real time, confirmed. I think that's important too. Confirmed sales where 10 other people in the world today, yesterday, and the day before all agreed that this card is worth this much money.
Yeah.
And I think that's another part of what's different from 2020 that you had started to touch on. We wanted
Yeah.
to give a synopsis, but what are your thoughts there? I mean, how important is that in looking from a macro perspective of what is important to people and how this hobby has evolved to be a real, true marketplace?
Yeah, I think it speaks directly to the fact that for it to become that thing, it has to have kind of like what we had touched on earlier, like infrastructure matters.
Yeah,
Like the especially I'm imagining trying to imagine how many people, like I assume a significant amount of new capital that's entered this little economy of ours is coming from crypto backgrounds, or it's coming with
sure.
some sort of like access to the stock market. And we had alluded to at the beginning of our conversation how many tools exist, how many different metrics they use to determine values. And
Yep.
people, when they want to invest serious money, and I know that's a different amount for everybody, but pretty much anybody investing feels like what they're doing is serious. And when they get to a place where it's past just collecting mostly for my own sake, but maybe it'll be worth something someday, to the point of like this is an investment, they need tools. And
Right.
if the tools and the readily access available aren't something that mirror what investors would be accustomed to knowing, whether it be like quarterly reports in the daily stock market ticker, which is just weekdays, which is so annoying, or just like the crypto markets, which are 24/7, like these people have acclimated to an environment of instant access to information.
Sure.
If this community lacked those tools, this money would not come to this community. First of all, like the hype wouldn't even exist because you wouldn't know. Like when you see something pop off, we've had a lot of conversations where we're like, can you believe that this just went for this amount of money? That creates energy and drive and ambition inside the market. Even if you miss that rocket, you're like, I'm going to be on the next one, and I cannot allow this to pass me by. Not only is it creating information that investors use to make the best decisions they can, or follow their hunches, or confirm their biases or whatever. But it is a huge engine for enthusiasm inside of the economy. Without the information, the talking points are really relegated to who's your favorite Pokemon and how much did that sell for 2 years ago. You have
Yeah.
lots. I mean, that you could have big conversations in that space, but you could only go so far with how involved your Lucario cosplay is going to be. When you've got these like competing forces and you've got these multiple data points, there's a lot to ingest, and I feel like in our connected environment, especially after whatever COVID did to our brains, where we were all staring into our phones, like when we don't have that information, we feel like there's something either inauthentic or literally speaking, our attention is a commodity. And
Yeah.
without that constant dopamine, without that constant refreshing of information, without the moving markets that never sleep, like our attention would get captured by algorithms elsewhere.
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
just not enough time in the day. And hopefully, in a healthy sense, our attention will be preoccupied with self care and our interpersonal relationships.
Probably
But
not.
probably not. But or like I can't get my out of my head that Julian guy that was talking to us earlier. Did I get his number? Um, and I think in an environment like that, infrastructure is king. If you want it to
Yeah.
go to the next level, and we're in the next level, when we talk about what's the thesis, the money can't leave quick. It's not fast hobby to liquidate in, and the hobby is understood to be growing, and it doesn't have a history of like major correction. Like people aren't getting in right now, for the most part. I would categorize probably a lot of the new money as thinking at least 2 to 5 year blocks out. Um,
Yep.
I think it's a little crazy to think more than 5 years out with the way that all technology is going right now. Like, I don't know what that world's going to look like. But
Sure.
2 to 5 feels palatable, healthy, and reasonable to expect that most fundamental things will remain the same.
Yeah.
And so it's just, yeah, it's not going to go down. And I don't think Pokemon company's going to let it go down. You point to them giving people what they wanted. What we're seeing, I think it's correct. And I think what we're seeing is a company mature and understanding the value of its IP, what resonates and what doesn't. And I think when you look at the mid era, you can really see a lot of experimentation. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, when a musician or a band drops their third album.
Hmm.
Now they don't want to get pigeonholed into that one hit song. They want to experiment with jazz. Like somebody did ayahuasca and then like Frank got a DUI and he's seeing things differently, and that third album's like weird and funky and maybe like a few of the songs are passable. Out the other end of that, like some fans remain, but like you lose a lot of people in that moment of self-discovery. And I think that's what Pokemon Company had to go through.
Dude,
They've
so
got
well
their
said.
yeah, they've got their formula in the bag now. They understand that like there's only so many Pokemon, just over
Yeah.
1,000, and yet we have a community that is like, do it to me again, baby. We're just like, I want to see Charizard again, and I want to see him from
Bro.
this angle. I want you to
Yeah, dude.
make his neck thick, or give him a big gut, or zoom real in on that eye. And if you
Yeah,
do that
bro.
for me, I will give you all my money. Like
That's
this community's just fine. Like we love recycling gimmicks. The second Mega Evolution drops, like when it already happened. Look at where the Megas have gone from previous eras. It's a great
bro.
gimmick. Pokemon's full of awesome gimmicks. They're just going to keep leaning into them, and I think what we're seeing from them is a maturity that's meeting the moment because this economy and this community have they stabilized, they got the rocket off the ship, and now we're kind of going parabolic. Unless something really big, critical, fundamental outside world happens, like this is a thing now. The
Yeah.
roots have grown. This is a branch of the economy that's going to stay connected to the tree, and it's going to bear
Yeah.
fruit.
Yeah. I agree. No, I mean, I so very well said. And I think more and more people by the day, whether they say it or not, something in the back of their brain is convincing them that that's true.
Yeah. It's
And I think
also
a
like
lot
we
of
need
people
hope.
wanted to go ahead.
I think when I think about like I'm elder millennial, right? And I think we took a lot of weird hits. And you think about what our psychology is, living through like our 9/11s, the financial
Yeah.
crisis, watching the people we looked up to lose everything, and being told, it's a straight line: high school, good grades, college, job,
Right.
marriage, family, home. And that straight
Yeah.
line has gotten real wobbly, or it just doesn't exist at all. The
Sure.
people suffering the most from just like trying to get jobs and stuff like that are the graduating Gen Zs, the younger millennials. So there's a lot of just like, I don't buy that narrative anymore. I need a play that makes sense to me, a play that is familiar. The stock market's either dusty or it's all priced in because private equity controls everything that's like gonna really pop off, and it's sequestered in the private investment market. So you're like, what do I do with this money? And like,
Right.
this is something that like we get, and this is it's a payoff. We're gonna probably, for a lot of people our age, like owning homes and stuff like that, like that feels like a pipe dream, but this feels like a ladder to get to that pipe dream for a lot of
Yeah.
people. This is an exciting moment for investing in this space, and I feel like it required people like kind of my generation and younger to take seriously something that art typically would be so like playful and unserious.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a grown man in a Pokemon shirt, and I think it's awesome.
I do too. I'm
Yeah.
with you, bro. No, I mean it is funny. Not everybody is completely informed about what's going on, which is totally fine. But when I talk to my wife's family and they're like, "Hey, where were you for 6 hours?" and I'm like, "Oh, I went to a card show. I had my own booth, and I was selling adults and some children
Mhm.
Pokemon cards for 6 hours." And they're like, "Oh, how'd it go?" And I'm like, "I made a lot of money." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Made a lot." Like, if I if the market stayed like this, like more people would go full time. So many people are trying to make this their full time thing now, which, I have my own thoughts. For some people, it's palpable. For others, it's probably not the best idea. But I think at the current moment, um, there's so much eagerness for content. And like just today, as I'm driving around for work, because all I do is drive all day,
Yeah.
like I saw a new creators vendor POV. Like I've never seen him before. He had like 1,000 or so views, and like a couple hundred subscribers, which is solid. And I was like, screw it, I'm gonna listen to it. And I was fantastic. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, subscribe. Like I'm
Yeah.
gonna and like so many people in space feel the same way, and that's an avenue to make money. And card shows are an avenue to make money because there's margin there. And going and getting products at big box is a way to make like there's just so many different avenues within the space right now that are plays. And like it's like a fire that just has a blow dryer like constantly hitting it, and it's
Yeah.
like and there's unlimited brush, and it's and I just, like you said, unless something externally happens, I cannot see
No,
the
yeah, the
the
company's
excitement
too
tapering.
strong. This company's too strong. The
It is.
IP is too good. The popularity has become mainstream. So we're outside of the realm of just like you enjoy playing games or you're into like the anime or whatever. So we're in the zeitgeist of the popular opinion. You can't liquidate it quick. You can,
No,
and fairly
that's a
quick.
huge piece.
It's this barrier where like you
It's a
want
huge
in.
piece.
When you get in, you accumulate, but you also have to understand that like you can't quickly offload. There's such a cool security aspect to it. It creates a little bit of a bottleneck, but like I don't know, like when somebody has to get out really fast, like they'll get money if they want to get out pretty fast, but we'll also get product below whatever the market was the moment
Sure.
before they had to do it. Everybody wins. You can get out quick, but
Yes.
if you want to get out and make what you feel like you could have made, really maximize your ROI. Like you have to do it incrementally.
It's gonna be a
And
slow drip.
yeah, and so like barring catastrophe, which, there's always the risk of loss of principal. This is not financial advice,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
barring catastrophe, like you're in an area that has like it has a great inflow of capital. You've got a huge, awesome IP with a mature company behind it. You have a lot of important legacy data and a lot of real-time data, so you can stay super informed. Tons of different ways to confirm and legitimize like your position. And then like it's not really easy to get out quick, and that's super stabilizing to the market. You have a tangible good in your hands the entire time. Well, hopefully in a top loader or something, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you got
Tips
it
for
the
the
whole
people.
time.
Tips for the people.
Like, yeah, I was about to have a pretty morbid thought. Sometimes when I see like post tornado damage, uh,
Where is this going?
I usually think two things. I'm watching the interview, or they're talking to somebody, and what was their house is now just a pile of just like, drywall,
Lumber.
like 2x4s gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's super important on the front end that they're in this moment where they're like, oh, it's all right. Like what really matters is everybody I know and love is safe. And you're like,
Yeah.
good, they're good. My first thought is like, life's always like that. Maybe I really wish I could maintain that perspective all the time. What really matters are my relationships, my wife and my daughter in particular. Um, but also the second thought I usually have is I wonder how many collections got destroyed and what that's going to do to the pop. like, like
Oh God.
because
Oh
you,
Lord
you
have
can't
mercy.
deactivate those PSAs anymore. So like, when people talk about, well, the population of PSA 10s is X, I'm like, minus the ones that got taken out in Oklahoma, this like, you know, like, I don't
Oh
know.
man, we could probably do a whole video on that. We're gonna save that one for the next live. But
Yeah,
I
there's a
love
lot to
that.
unpack there.
I love that that is what is going through your brain watching that footage. But let's we're gonna do one last topic.
Cool.
It is 10:05, and I'm gonna say we have like 25 minutes left. So really quickly, obviously you and I probably can both agree. I don't know who your favorite folks are on YouTube. I like Nostalgianomics. I like Rudy at Alpha Investments, like Brian at Pokey Any. I think it's pretty common theme that sealed investments are kind of like your ETFs. They're your safe plays. Traditionally, we have 30 years of data that supports that sealed products always go up. It's one of the the main plays within the hobby that is linear in nature in respect to a chart with an X and Y axis, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about some alternate plays within the current market beyond sealed investments for people to consider. We've talked about it a little bit in passing, just based off of the conversation. You had mentioned things like the Mew from the 151 UPC, the promo of him with the pinkish background flying through a little town. Who knows which one that
City
is from
Mew.
the,
That's being called
yeah,
City Mew now. It's classy
City
now.
Mew. We of course
Bubble
have
Mew, City Mew.
the Batman Mewtwo of him looking over the city, and it's very dark themed, kind of that Gotham look. Of course, promos are they picked up steam. You mentioned the Lovebirds and tag teams and megas and gold stars. Talk to me about some alternate plays
Yeah.
that have a reasonable price right now that you would consider.
There's always a few things to consider when like things are moving quick. When things are moving quick, there is what is obvious. Um, like AI is exploding, and if you're in the traditional market, you're investing in the companies that you think will make AI the most efficiently. So the Googles and Microsofts go up. And then you think a little bit harder and you invest in NVIDIA because you have to have the chips to do the AI training. And
Sure.
then you think a little bit harder and you start investing in like infrastructure companies that like do uh dig ditches and pour concrete to build like data centers because they're going
Yep.
to make money too. And I think
Yep.
like that has to be the perspective in any investing, is thinking of those second and third order effects of what
Picks and
happens.
shovels.
Yeah, especially in a bull. You're imagining with this prosperity, it will matriculate into other things. How can I cash in on that once
Yep.
I've kind of gotten my position comfortably on the guaranteed outcome? And like you said, not that anything's guaranteed, but the stability of the markets and sealed predominantly in the ETBs and the booster boxes. ETB as the
Yeah.
cornerstone collector item, booster box because pound for pound, it's just cards, no
Yeah.
fluff.
No fluff.
Um, and then, I think like the easiest sort of template for like great plays, but it's super obvious, but it's just guaranteed, is like exclusivity, popularity of Pokemon, and then excess like uh I don't know, I guess the age, like allowing it to go out of print. But I guess that just speaks to exclusivity. Plays that I'm getting into is trying to hunt down and make sure I've got like a nice little collection of anything that is inherently exclusive out of the Scarlet Violet era. As it's wrapping up, I'm taking like a look back on it and I'm thinking about what did I think was really cool and worth it, what was bullshit, how do I know the difference? So the plays that are obvious right now are going for the popular Pokemon built-in exclusivity, because a lot of sealed is going to stay sealed as it becomes increasingly expensive to rip.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can only get like for me, I didn't open a UPC and I maybe never will. I probably never will. I've got the promo, so I'm good. And that would be probably more valuable to me than like tearing it up. So I think that's the obvious play. Some little things have been sneaking through the cracks, like I've got it right by me. I'm not trying to go off camera. I got just this young lady, Marnie's Morpeko, just popped off.
Yeah. I got a
So I was,
couple.
yeah, it's just super fun to pick up. But people are overlooking it because Rival Battle Deck looks just like all
Correct.
the other stuff that's been rotting. So
Correct.
uh, those are super cool plays, but it's sealed. I've seen you doing a lot of interesting stuff. The buys for me have just really been that. Like, where are the holes? What did I miss? I picked up a Miriam and an Iona because I wasn't gonna buy them when they were getting their initial waifu pump. But now they're like super reasonable and they're like super cool cards. I think they're really pretty, so I grabbed those. And my wife's gotten me like this additional perspective on Pokemon that I really appreciate, just like the prettier cards.
Yeah.
There's probably a part of me that like came in guns blazing, like real like macho, was like Mewtwo, Groudon, stuff like that. Now I'm like, Milcery's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you
Lily's
think about it,
cool.
Milcery's just milk, man. That's so cool. And
Yeah.
like, look how cute Lechonk is in the sun. I just think like that.
Fido.
Yeah. Oh, Fido, man, my house goes wild for a Fido. Oh yeah, I've got Fido up here. So like plays for me right now, I'm playing the obvious stuff. Like I felt like these were super overlooked. This is the Lost Origin
I
Trainer
love
Gap.
that play, dude.
Super cool. I've had the Rayquaza forever. And I just picked up two of the Pikachus to round it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just kind of filling in the cracks. Those are my plays right now. I'm trying to shore up my Scarlet Violet sealed collection and the cards I was really interested in outside of the major chases. And then just sort of like, the old like naval battleship movies where they have to reposition the cannon and there's like the cranking sound. Right now I'm just having all the turrets turn and begin to face forward, trying to just like get my stretching in and stuff like that, because this fall is just going to be, I mean, I thought 2025 was wild, but I think I might lack the appropriate amount of imagination to correctly gauge how wild 2026 will be. So my confidence is just that it's going to be wild. So it
Yeah.
will be fundamental, secure, sealed. gravitate towards the Pokemon that retain value because of their popularity and the exclusivity of those Pokemon. And while
Yeah.
you do that, also pursue your favorites. My favorite Pokemon is
I was about
Trubbish.
to say it. Go ahead. What's that?
Trubbish.
Trubbish.
My favorite. Trubbish and Garbodor just get me. I just like, I don't know.
They're
I just
they're
love
goofy.
a bag of trash as a Pokemon is awesome to me. It's super cute,
Yeah.
really weird. Not expensive to hunt and collect Trubbish either. So
Yeah.
that works out really well for me.
I don't know if there's like one right answer. I'm gonna flash some stuff that I've been buying recently, and I think, like you just said it. I think a key point in when you're considering, um, what is a good alternate play. Well, the best alternate play is buying something that you like, because even if it goes down in value, at least you like it, and who gives a shit at that point. Um,
Amen. I mean, that's
but the
the
market,
core of it.
yeah, the market's so hot though that more than likely, even if you thought it would go down, it's probably going to
It
go
won't.
up.
Yeah, it won't go down.
So I'm going to flash some things that I've been buying.
Yeah, sure.
Some things that I haven't been buying that I think probably are good plays. That maybe that will be my next step.
Yeah.
Are some of the less talked about IRs from Scarlet and Violet, from sets that are not super popular.
Okay.
And so their price and their PSA 10 price are both fair compared to, the Bubble Muse price raw, or the Bubble Muse price in a PSA 10, or the Shinji Kanda Magikarp
Yeah.
raw and PSA 10 price. So I'm talking about cards like the Houndoom from Shrouded Fable,
Shrouded. Okay, cool. Yeah.
where
Awesome.
they're just kind of biting and running.
Yeah.
You know, Houndoom's a popular Pokemon, which is following the trend that you said. Follow the popular ones. The Persian, from Shrouded.
Oh, it's
Just
awesome. Looking in the window. Yeah.
looking out the window into the city, and he's got his reflection.
Cityscapes are going nuts. Like that Noivern V. Do you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
Wow.
it's
Because it looks like Batman.
yeah. I mean, that's a badass card, dude. I
Truly.
think that's such a cool card.
I've been staring at it. It's in my binder. I've been looking at it for years. Like, this is pretty cool. Never
Man.
thought for 1 second it would be worth anything, but that speaks to the point you were saying, dude. Like, it's so cool right now that if you can afford to be in this, which like barrier of entry is, it's not cheap with time, attention, financially. But if you can be in here, like, even just doing the niche things you love pay off.
Yeah.
For sure.
So this is
Other
a
place.
lot of what I've been getting here recently. Stamps. I'm
Cool.
starting a new PC binder. Just getting stamps all from Mid-Era, Crystal Guardians, EX Team Rocket, and I'm getting the reverse holo stamps, Legend Maker. This is
That
one of the
Lantern
ones.
is so cool.
Yeah.
I read after I saw that. I just read about it for like an hour because I was like super intrigued. There's so many versions, and you got like the coolest one.
I appreciate it. Unseen Forces, Dragon Frontier, Delta Speed, all these reverse holos that not only do I want to put them in a PC binder, but it's probably going to pay off. If I do want to liquidate it at some point. I got these recently. I think those are really cool. Just e-read. I think this is literally, is this Skyridge?
With the EV right there.
Yeah, I think it's Skyridge. I think that's what the emblem is down there in the bottom. Not sure, but and then of course, I'm a vintage junkie. Some of the more expensive stuff I've been picking up is, First Eddie, Sabrina's Gengar. I'm a Gengar junkie though.
Dude, yeah. I almost wore my Gengar shirt tonight. Next time.
I wish you would have. Just a Houndour from Neo.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be so cool side by side.
Non-holo.
To your other Houndour. Look at that, Mew.
I mean, just small things like that. But I think more than anything, like what you said, buy what you like, and um, then you can't lose. But in my opinion, some of the less popular sets from Scarlet and Violet and those IRs, I think those are going to pick up. And if you're ever looking for edge and you just want to do some research and you've got some spare time after work, go on PSA and see and look at gem rates. The
Yeah.
Magikarp from Paldea Evolved is so expensive because it's so hard to PSA 10
Yeah.
and gem. And there are other sets too. Nostalgianomics, Alex, I think he does a great job of highlighting that. Things like the Tyranitar from, is it Paradox, where he looks like freaking Godzilla,
Yeah.
like,
I've heard a lot of people talking about that
or
recently.
Groudon maybe. I just think that those cards, if you can get them in great condition, which most of them should still be in great condition because they just in the last few years came out, there's going to be some edge sending those off to PSA.
Yeah, I just grabbed. I picked up sleepers, so Charizard and Snorlax. I've got a lot already just because I was buying a lot during the Sword and Shield era, but like
I love it.
sleeping Pokemon, it's like even with what you were talking about, like sure, part of the like what makes Pokemon cards retain value is whether or not you're part of that top tier of popularity. The other thing is exclusivity. And when exclusivity and popularity combine, that's kind of like your front loaded popularity. But the thing that we all have to recognize is more people enter the market, of course, it's going to pop off right there, but it's going to, if like you're on this journey where you have this deep appreciation for mid era all the way through vintage and all these little things because you've been on this journey for a long time. These entry
Yeah,
level people, like as they stay in the hobby, as Pokemon continues to give us what we want, keep us interested, are going to keep looking to learn more, and they'll arrive at the position you are at now. They'll just be arriving like a year out from now. And then
sure.
all of a sudden, that thing that you were picking up because you were passionate about it and because it was like readily available, that's why you were pursuing it. But its exclusivity will make them want to buy it at 10x.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
they're entry level now, they'll be matured and into it soon over the course of the next few years. And the more
yeah,
invested they are, the more they'll want to learn about it because they'll be asking themselves the questions we're wrestling with right now, which are what is the next play? Where is this going to go? What is the second and third order effect of all this new capital into the market? So it's a wild time. It's really fun for me. It's always like humbling learning about a lot of stuff, but I'm also enjoyably at that age where I'm just like super pleased and super comfortable with not knowing that I don't know everything, and
sure.
super pleased to be in environments that like keep pushing me and challenging me. I know that over the course of our relationship, seeing some stuff you picked up and having to like go research it, and
Yeah,
it's just been a huge conduit for me. Feeling plugged in, feeling added layers of investment into this community and these relationships, which makes the financial side of it feel like such a big payoff. This is probably what people meant by do what you love and you don't have to work, whatever.
dude, 100%,
Yeah, like
100%.
it is deeply entertaining. It's like if somebody could get paid for, I don't know, like I'm not big into sports, but like I know fantasy football people are really avid about that. I'm sure they would be thrilled to be able to like crunch the numbers of their favorite players and then on the back end of it have something that they could sell or something that's like retains value. So getting to pour all this energy and effort into something I'm passionate about, that just so happens to be a wildly viable way to have like a good or to diversify the way that you deal with your personal finances, like super exciting.
Yeah.
I love,
How nice is that?
huh?
How nice is that?
It's so cool. It's like I think the coolest thing about games as a gamer is that like as opposed to a lot of real life as you become an adult is that you always feel like what you're going to put in you're going to get something out of it. Like I was always happy to grind in World of Warcraft cuz like the outcome was tangible. Like I love cutting grass because I could look back and be like, cool, it's done. But like in gaming, you cut grass and you get this super awesome optimal outcome in a context that you chose for yourself and wanted to be in. And so
Yeah.
like for me, finding like such a great support system in Pokemon Go for just like my own personal mental health, for my like development inside the context of sobriety, and then like creating a genuine community of like human beings, either out playing Pokemon Go or like in stores, meeting people in line, trying to buy cards. And then the outcome of all of that is that I'm like deeply invested and have a really, really strong position in something that's like worth a lot of money, increasingly more every day. Is like,
Yeah.
man, that's just about as much as you could ask for. Pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
I agree. I agree. Well, that is going to wrap up our card and market topics.
Cool.
I said let's do a hard stop at 10:30. We're 5 minutes from 10:30, and we haven't even touched just the pure, broader investing topics that I had planned for us to touch on. So I'm thinking maybe what we'll do is we'll
Part two.
table, yeah, we'll do a part two. We'll table those topics, and that way maybe we can capture a different audience. People have started to trickle out. I think we're down to four, and we had a nice group in here at one point for a
Cool.
while. So that's kind of my high sign to wrap.
Cool.
I want to thank you so much for dedicating an hour and 40 minutes of your time tonight, joining me to chat about this. I want to thank everybody who came into the live and stayed throughout, or even just popped in for 10 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, thanks for being here, folks.
Yeah, you know your views are invaluable to my channel and what I'm doing over at Drewski's Card. So, Bobby, again, thank you for taking some time. I thought your insight and your wisdom and the value and knowledge that you brought to this conversation was fantastic. And hopefully some people who came in and were listening learned something tonight. Shout out Julian for being here probably almost the entire time. Julian, you are part of the Heart Squad, faux show. But guys, that's going to wrap. Last message is just be good to one another. And we will see you all back for part deuce.
Peace.